Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 30th of December 2013. So in today's news we have some talk about Karazhan and how it was a lie, and then a whole bunch of Twitter stuff. It's a mixture of things from Celestian and then some things from Chris Robertson. I'm sure you know who Celestian is, but Chris Robertson is one of the main art guys over there at Blizzard. So first of all, Karazhan was a complete lie. It turns out what they were doing is testing having different doodad sets in an instance based on different phases. Now, doodads are essentially just the ultra simple models that are kind of placed on top of the main, world, I suppose. So, things like cobwebs are an example of a doodad, and this only took them actually an hour of real work. And once everyone, like myself and pretty much all of the internet, thought, holy shit, there's a Karazhan phase for the pre-expansion event or something, then they just decided to dick around with us, which led to things like, was it Medivh's Big Birthday Bash, Karazhan 2 Electric Boogaloo. So yeah, I mean, on the bright side, a lot of people learned about Karazhan, and we got to make some videos, so really, I think everyone won. Though it would have been sort of cool to see some sort of new Karazhan lore. Anyway, let's move on to the tweets. These are actually interesting, sort of. Celestian's a pretty cool guy. He's been tweeting constantly throughout his holiday period, which has been fantastic. And I've collected together just a few of the more interesting ones that apply to most of us. So, first of all, he said that what they're going to be doing is they will be removing all of the racials that, as we know, that are to do with, expertise or that sort of thing. But what they are going to be doing is adding a throughput benefit to races which do not currently have one, as a part of balancing out the racials. Now, there was a bit of an issue where, basically, orcs had... It wasn't that good, but it was called Blood something or something similar to that, and it gave you a certain amount of attack power for 15 seconds. It was a non-use ability, so you could stack that with some of your procs or something like that. And it was not massively strong, but certainly significant. Then I think trolls do 5% extra damage against beasts. Now that's really okay in just normal leveling and stuff like that. But it got to problems where, say, Horadon was a boss, G-Kun, Tortos. And for raid balance, that was definitely a problem, because trolls did 5% more damage, and 5% is nothing to shake a stick at. We've all probably had times when our raid team has downed a boss by, maybe 1 second, 2 seconds before the enrage. Well, the troll's 5% may make the difference. So, yeah, I think they're probably going to tone down what the orcs and trolls have, and then add some things to most of the other races. I don't really know if they're just going to go for, has +5 of a certain secondary stat, because that would be kind of boring. Hopefully they do make them interesting, but not that powerful. I think racials are really best just kind of left as a flavor item, rather than something that's really ultra powerful. The race, it should only really have a bearing on how much you enjoy your character, and if you think it looks cool and you think armor looks cool on it, and then if you flavor things like the way that Worgen have their speed boost, which makes sense because they're Worgen. So yeah, better racials would be a nice thing. Next, he said that they recognized that leveling wasn't really that rewarding, and that's why they are going to have minor talents, that's what they're calling them, as you level up. Now, what interested me here is, he didn't say just in Warlords of Draenor, he just said as you level up, which nearly says to me that this is going to be more of a thing just throughout the leveling curve. Honestly, I don't know, that seems like work that doesn't really fit with the current kind of MO from Blizzard. They've been pretty adamant that they're moving forward, and they're not really looking at going back and changing things like that. But yeah, minor talents as you level, I think, are a fantastic idea. If you don't know what it is, basically you get a small augment to your, say, your executed does 20% more damage, or your arcane shot has a side effect, or something like that. They're pretty cool, they give you nice little perks while you level, and it's definitely, I suppose, making up for the fact that from Cataclysm to Mists of Pandaria, while we did get a talent system that allows them to have more individualized talents that are a bit more interesting, because yeah, there's less slots, so they just make each one better. We did gain that, but what we lost was the extreme customization and the fact that at every single level, nearly, or whatever, something similar to that, maybe every 2 levels, you get a new talent point to play with. That was kind of lost from leveling, and that took some of the reward out of actually digging your character. So yeah, I mean, this would be nice to have in lower levels, but really as long as it's there from 90 through 100, I'm pretty happy. Next, he said and confirmed that all of the new secondaries will be gemmable, so Jewel Crafters, while hit and expertise are going, you will have quite a lot of gems to make, because I think they're adding, it's either 3 or 5 new secondaries, so it's definitely quite a lot. Then for fist weapons, he said that they would specifically like to show more of the weapon itself, and that they're working on it currently but don't have any promises as to when it'll be done. Honestly, when they say they don't have any promises, it usually means at least like 4 patches away, or something crazy like that. Though with an expansion coming out, it would be nice. It seems, from what I gather, just reading Twitter and a few other things, that monks don't really see their fist weapons all the time during animations or something like that. I'm not specifically sure, so if you do play a monk, let me know. Of course, I think that your weapons should always really be the forefront, and they should show in your attack animations, because that just makes them feel so much more visceral and better. Plus, when you get a shiny new piece of gear, you want to be able to use it. That's actually one problem I sort of have with boomkins. Not the boomkins themselves, but I think it was maybe a little bit annoying for some of those people when maybe there was a piece of gear they really liked, or I don't know, just something cool, and then they found that there was no real point in having it because you can't see it on your character, which is a bit of a problem. Then again, combined with the fact that boomkin models really do need updated, yeah, it's kind of hard on the boomkins, so sorry guys. But, yeah, it would be nice if the monks could get their fist weapons being shown. Next, for gems. The gem stat bonuses will not change when you swap gear. To me, this means that if you move from, say, a DPS to a healer, then the primary stats and that sort of thing on your armor will change, your secondary items will remain the same, and then any gems that you do have will remain the same, i.e. they won't change, which is what he said. Now that's fine, and Celestine said that this is by design. So I guess that when we look through the current secondaries and then you add in the new ones, most of them are kind of role agnostic, so I don't expect this to be a giant headache for min-maxers. And, well, people in general. Min-maxers may still have the issue where you swap over and perhaps multi-strike is 2% more optimal than haste, so then they need to re-gem their gear. It's kind of strange, actually. This whole system of the gear swapping is a bit funny. While things are more role agnostic, it still is a bit of a pain if you are, say, max level raiding, or even doing heroic raids, which are the equivalent of Mists of Pandaria normals. In those circumstances, people do want you to be as optimal as possible, and if you're losing out on a few percent here and a few percent there via not having specifically good secondary gems, I think that might be able to lead to problems. I don't know, the system definitely does need a little bit of well, a lot of thought, actually, and I'd be worried that things may end up being just a little bit clunky. So you could change your spec over, all your gear is fine, but then you need to re-gem or something like that. That wouldn't be particularly fun. That said, of course, there are actually going to be less gem slots in general in Warlords of Draenor. They're making sockets a little bit more of a rare and special thing, which I think is fair enough. It makes them feel like more of a reward. Next, they said that they are planning on improving the simplicity of haste-based stuff. This is pretty good in my opinion, because there's often a lot of confusion about things like this. For example, like how haste affects the amount of ticks in a channeled spell, how it affects dots, do the dots take a snapshot of the haste when they're fired. All those various things are kind of confusing, so if they just have one baseline way that all that stuff works, it would be pretty damn good. So that's all the things from Celestine. And now I'm really just covering the things that really apply to everyone from him. He does talk a lot about other classes. There's a lot of things about Whirlwind Monks, so if you are one of those classes, do check out his Twitter. The guy tweets a lot, like more than Ghostcrawler in sometimes. It's kind of crazy and brilliant. Next, for Chris Robertson, who is one of their art guys, he said that they've been lately talking a lot about customization, and this person asked him on Twitter what he thinks of being able to hide shoulders, because there are some sets of armor that actually look okay without the shoulders, because you still need to remember the breastplate does have, it has a texture in the shoulder area, it just doesn't have the big sort of flary thing that a shoulder does. And Warcraft shoulders, well, I think they're very stylistic, that's probably the way to put it. They're giant and bloody humongous, and that really just doesn't appeal to a lot of people. Honestly, there are some bits of gear that I just think look absolutely ridiculously stupid because the shoulders are too big. There's times when you nearly can't, like, walk through, well, of course you can walk through a door because of clipping, but if you were to apply to the real life, you wouldn't be able to walk through a door. I think it was the Hunter tier, the Hunter, like, the current season Hunter PvP armor has got these giant tusks or giant crystals or something in the back of it, and it's fine on a lot of characters, but for an example, on an orc, it's nearly the width, like, it's wider than the orc, it juts out, and it just looked silly. So, yeah, I think being able to hide shoulders would actually be quite good, and in general, having a more robust show hide system would be nice. I was recently reading up all the different patch notes, and show hide, it came in, I think it came in with the first 3 or 4 main vanilla patches. So, yeah, I think it was a pretty good addition, actually. I'm wondering though, what other things would you like to show and hide? I mean, maybe you could, like, hide your breastplate to make your shirt be the only thing people see, or maybe your tabard or something, because perhaps, yes, tabards actually would make sense. Sometimes people maybe want the rep from a tabard, but they don't exactly, well, if they're going back to do Cataclysm things, but they don't exactly want to show it because it breaks the aesthetic of their set, so I guess that could be a thing people could do. Now next, and finally for his tweets, he said that the overall theme of Warlords of Draenor armor is going to be Primal/Barbarian. This is really good news to me. If you've probably seen a lot of the concept art for the expansion anyway, and there's been quite a lot of fur, some tusks, and in general, to me, it just looks very cool. What I like about this, though, is that it's a definite departure from Cataclysm, which was, I guess it was trying to go high fantasy, but it also, not high fantasy, just, well, general base Warcraft fantasy with the elemental mix thrown in, and that ended up with a lot of clown gear and I guess just things that made no sense. I think the Murloc Hunter armor is definitely an example of something that should never be repeated again. But yeah, there's a lot of silly armor in Cataclysm, at least as a Hunter, that's what I thought. Most of our armor was crap, although I do remember liking some of the warrior stuff. Anyway, there's that. In Mists of Pandaria, I think there have been just so many really mixed opinions of nearly every tier, especially tier 15, 14, whatever, the current tier. Just, holy crap, I mean, there was so much QQ. I remember in most of the videos that I had done back over the summer looking at the different pieces of armor, first of all, I was at best mediocre, sort of in terms of my opinion, on about half of them, and I disliked quite a few. That was something that was really echoed in the comments, and hopefully what they do is they start designing armor for the class instead of making it go with the raid tier. I think, okay, armor should go with the raid tier, but only when it actually fits with the class that's going to be wearing the armor. For an example, the Kor'kron Dark Shaman Transmog set for Shamans in Siege of Orgrimmar. That's great, it looks shamanistic, it fits the tier, and I'm completely cool with that. I think it's great. But then if you look at, say, the Hunter one, what? Okay, that one doesn't even suit the tier, just suits nothing. But in general, I think what they should be doing is just trying to make armor that really suits the class well and isn't absurdly ridiculous, I suppose. And I think Primal Barbarian, well, a lot of the armor sets, if you're going strictly in a Primal/Barbarian sort of theme, they're going to be safe in terms of how they look. But I also think that they're going to, like, have a baseline of looking pretty decent anyway. I'd say that given the amount of strongly mixed, I think that's probably the most political way to say it, the amount of strongly mixed feedback that they've got over armor sets, really the last while, they're probably going to be wanting to play it a little bit safe and just make sure they have stuff out that pleases everyone. Personally, I was really okay with a lot of, say, a lot of the Wrath of the Lich King armor. I know that a lot of people think that armor got kind of boring in Wrath, and I suppose I understand what they're saying, but I also think that it never really looked particularly terrible, at least for the classes that I had played at the time. Of course, there was some armor which definitely was quite boring. Burning Crusade was interesting. It was a mixed bag. It had some really, really spectacular sets, then some really not that great ones. And I think in Burning Crusade, they definitely... It's as if they had a lot more freedom with sets. They could really just go kind of far out left field, do something crazy, and then sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't, but it did result in quite a few really iconic sets for some classes. One last little note, I'd like it if rogues started getting rogue armor again. There's one rogue set which actually looks really stealthy, it's all kind of black and it just looks cool to me. Start giving rogue sets like that, because I think the rogues would appreciate it, because they don't like looking like warriors in leather. Anyway, that is it for today's Warcraft Daily. I would like to know what you think of Armour, both in the past, the present, and what your expectations are for Warlords of Draenor. Do you think that the Mists of Pandaria way of doing Armour and maybe the Cataclysm way is the right one? Or do you think they should just start going more Burning Crusade style and just kind of going a little bit crazy? And at least maybe that will give us some ultra cool sets. It'll be interesting to know what you all think. Anyway, that's it for today's show. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.